Imagine a world where your daily glass of water becomes a weapon. By 2026, experts project that 2.5 billion people will face acute water scarcity, a crisis far more volatile and existential than the struggle for oil. This isn't just about droughts or parched landscapes, it's about a fundamental shift in global power. We are entering an era where nations are turning rivers into battlegrounds and underground aquifers into flashpoints for conflict. Welcome to the age of blue gold, where the liquid in your tap is the new frontier of geopolitics. 1. The global thirsty reality and the mathematics of survival. To understand the scale of the crisis, we must look at the brutal mathematics of survival. While 70% of our planet is covered in water, 97% of that is salt water. Of the remaining 3%, nearly all of it is locked away in glaciers or deep underground. In reality, humanity survives on less than 1% of the world's accessible fresh water. According to the latest data, renewable water availability per person has plunged by 7% in just the last decade. But the crisis isn't just about what we drink, it's about our invisible water footprint. It takes roughly 15,000 litres of water to produce a single kilogram of beef, and nearly 13,000 litres to manufacture a single smartphone. Developed nations are effectively importing water from water-stressed regions through global trade, accelerating a depletion that the natural hydrologic cycle simply cannot keep pace with. 2. The great rivers as modern battlegrounds for power. When a river crosses a border, it ceases to be just a natural resource and becomes a powerful geopolitical lever. Today, 3 major river basins stand as the world's most dangerous flashpoints. On the Nile, the 2025 inauguration of Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has fundamentally altered the balance of power in East Africa. For Ethiopia, it is a ticket to becoming a major power exporter. But for Egypt, which relies on the Nile for 90% of its water, it is an existential threat. In South Asia, the 65-year-old Indus Water Treaty is fracturing under the weight of climate change and mutual distrust between India and Pakistan, leaving over 300 million people caught in a hydrological quake. Meanwhile, in Southeast Asia, China's cascade of 12 mainstream dams on the Mekong allows it to effectively turn off the tap for downstream nations. In Vietnam's Mekong Delta, this has led to devastating saltwater intrusion, where the sea flows inland because the river's pressure is too weak to push it back, destroying the region's vital rice bowl. 3. Invisible frontiers and the silent danger of aquifers. While rivers grab the headlines, the real hidden danger lies beneath our feet in transboundary aquifers. These massive underground reservoirs are shared by multiple nations, yet they are being extracted at rates that far exceed their natural recharge. The Guarani Aquifer, stretching beneath Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay, is one of the world's largest. Historically, this was a site of potential conflict, but it has recently become a beacon of hope for international diplomacy. Through a strategic action plan implemented in 2025, these 4 nations have created a digital, real-time monitoring network to prevent over-extraction and pollution. However, many other regions are not so lucky. In coastal urban centres, the silent threat of salinisation is turning freshwater aquifers into undrinkable brine. This is a direct result of rapid urban expansion and the unchecked pumping required to sustain modern megacities, creating a crisis that is as invisible as it is catastrophic. 4. The privatization of life and water as a tactical weapon. The marketization of water has created a new economic sector known as the blue economy. As water becomes scarce, it becomes immensely valuable, and that value inevitably leads to weaponization. In recent conflicts, we have seen the rise of hydroterrorism, where vital water infrastructure like dams and desalination plants are targeted to force populations into submission. Simultaneously, we are seeing the rise of private water companies and water rights trading on global markets. While proponents argue that putting a price on water encourages conservation, critics warn of a future where water is a privilege for the rich rather than a fundamental human right. Current international law is struggling to keep up with this reality. Most existing treaties were written for a world with a stable climate, not the volatile, resource-constrained reality of 2026. 5. Technological breakthroughs and the path to hydrological peace. Despite the grim statistics, a future of water wars is not inevitable. We now have the innovative tools required to decouple economic growth from water consumption. Desalination technology has evolved. 2026 has seen the rise of AI-driven plants that use machine learning to optimize pressure and flow, reducing energy consumption by up to 50%. Furthermore, the circular water economy is no longer a luxury, but a necessity. Singapore's model of treating and recycling wastewater into ultra-clean drinking water is being adopted globally through modular, decentralized treatment plants that can be deployed in weeks. Finally, we must transform agriculture, which wastes nearly 60% of the water it uses. By switching to AI-monitored drip irrigation and salt-tolerant crops, we can save billions of cubic meters of blue gold. True water security requires a combination of individual responsibility, massive policy overhauls, and a commitment to international cooperation. 6. The AI era, digital twins, and the end of hydrological blindness. As we move deeper into 2026, the most significant shift is the transition from analog to digital hydrology. For decades, we managed water based on estimates and outdated maps. But today, artificial intelligence is creating digital twins of entire river basins. These are live, virtual replicas that integrate satellite imagery, IoT ground sensors, and real-time climate data to predict floods and droughts weeks before they happen. This technology allows us to move from a monitor and react posture to one of sense, predict, and optimize. By using blockchain-secured networks, nations can now share this data transparently, removing the data blindness that often leads to mutual suspicion and conflict. When every nation on a river sees the same real-time data, the incentive to cooperate becomes far stronger than the impulse to fight. Digital governance is turning the tide, making it impossible for hidden extractions or pollution events to go unnoticed. 7. Hydro-diplomacy, reforming the legal architecture of 2026. The final frontier of this battle is not technical, but legal and diplomatic. The old frameworks, like the 1997 UN Watercourses Convention, were not designed for the extreme climate volatility we see today. We are now seeing the emergence of blue peace frameworks, a new form of hydro-diplomacy that treats water as a global common good rather than a national commodity. This involves a shift from hydro-sovereignty, where a nation claims absolute right to the water on its land, to hydro-stewardship, where nations share the responsibility for the health of the entire basin. In 2025, we saw the first blue bonds issued specifically to fund transboundary infrastructure, ensuring that the financial burden of conservation is shared by the global community. By codifying these new rules of engagement into international law, we can create a Geneva Convention for Water that protects essential infrastructure and ensures equitable access for all, turning a source of potential war into a cornerstone of global stability. Conclusion: securing the future of blue gold. Water is the invisible thread that connects our economy, our demographics, and our global peace. In our previous analyses, we explored how the demographic time bomb is shrinking our labour force, and how the economics of Christmas puts a unique strain on our public purse. But water is the foundation upon which all these systems sit. Without water security, there is no economic stability or social growth. By investing in transboundary diplomacy and breakthrough technology today, we can ensure that the blue gold of tomorrow remains a source of life rather than a reason for war. We must act now to ensure that when the world asks for a glass of water, the answer is a hand of friendship, not a weapon of war. Stay informed, stay resilient, and let us build a sustainable future together.